Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to tap that bell icon to be notified every time a new video is released. Thanks!
Get ready for your weekly dose of pixie dust with Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and in today's House of Mouse headlines, Disney adds a couple more Oscars to their roster, plus we got some exciting new trailers and several Star Wars stories, so let's get to it.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
Let's start with the Oscars, which happened just about a week ago. If you didn't see, Coco from Disney Pixar got Best Animated Feature. No surprise there. A little bit more surprising was Remember Me won Best Song. At least it was a little surprising to me. I gotta say, I was kind of thinking that The Greatest Showman was gonna win Best Song. I enjoy them both equally, so I'm certainly not upset that Remember Me won Best Song. I think that's great. It did make it is a two-time EGOT winner. 2 times. So if you don't know what an EGOT is, it's an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony award winner. That's 4 major awards. And now Bobby Lopez, who wrote the music for Remember Me, is now a 2-time winner. He is the only person ever to accomplish this, so it's a pretty major accomplishment. I do have to say the performance of the song Remember Me on the Oscars was quite lackluster, in my opinion. In fact, it was kind of bad. So I was happy to see them win, though. That's great. And for The Greatest Showman, well, those guys won last year for La La Land, so it's all good. One of the biggest upsets at the Oscars, though, was a category that usually Disney and or Pixar dominates is Best Animated Short. And this year, it did not win. It was nominated for Lou, which was the short that premiered before Cars 3. But the winner in this category was actually Dear Basketball, which was written by Kobe Bryant, yes, like the sports guy, and animated by Disney's retired Disney animator Glenn Keane, who's responsible for characters like Ariel and the Beast. So although Disney and Pixar didn't win this category this year, I was really happy for Glenn Keane because it's a tough category. You know, it's an interesting situation because, yeah, Disney and Pixar put out great products. But there are a lot of great animated shorts that just aren't looked at as much. Not as many people see them. Not as many marketing dollars are put into them. So it's pretty rare for Disney or Pixar not to win this category as well as Best Animated Feature. So I was really happy for this small little film. I say small a little, but listen to the people involved. Kobe Bryant, Glenn Keane, and John Williams actually wrote the music to it. So it was pretty cool. I actually did see this short at the Hollywood Bowl last summer when John Williams was conducting the music at the Hollywood Bowl. Kobe Bryant came out and read the dialogue for Dear Basketball live, and John Williams conducted the orchestra live. So it was pretty cool. I was happy to see that happen. So in any case, at the Oscars, Coco, Best Animated Feature, Remember Me, Best Song, and Dear Basketball, not Disney, but the Glenn Keane tie-in there, and of course John Williams as well. So pretty cool. Now, during the commercial breaks for the Oscars, we actually got a nice little teaser for Mary Poppins Returns, which of course was put online as well. And I gotta tell you, I am so excited for this movie, and I hate to say this, I'm not the biggest Mary Poppins fan. I don't love that movie as much as I wish I did. I know it's Walt's masterpiece. I've given it several chances. I actually saw it at Grauman's Chinese Theater where the movie premiered, and, you know, Dick Sherman was there and several other people involved with the film. And I said to myself, if I don't fall in love with it now, I never will. And I've never been a huge fan of that movie. I'm sorry. I know it's painful, but of course I love the music to it. But Mary Poppins Returns, I am so excited for. I remember they showed a bunch of clips of this at the D23 Expo, and it gave me chills then. Honestly, watching this little teaser trailer gave me chills. You see the kite from the end of the film, I presume from the end of the film, blowing in the wind, and it goes up above the clouds, and then we see as it's revealed through the clouds again, we have the silhouette of Mary Poppins coming down, and it looks so good. And there's very little dialogue in this except we see the children grown up say, "Mary Poppins, it's wonderful to see you." And Mary goes, "Yes, it is, isn't it?" Which is beautiful. And they have that classic shot of Mary looking at herself in the mirror and then walking away, yet her image still appears in the mirror. It's a really cool little throwback to the original, but I'm excited to see this movie come out. It comes out on Christmas, and it literally gave me chills, so I'm super stoked for Mary Poppins Returns. Another trailer that was recently released that really surprised me is Christopher Robin. Now, this was one of the live-action films we've been hearing a lot about. You know, there's so many live-action films that Disney's doing these days from their animated classics, and Christopher Robin has been heard about. That's got an August 3rd release, so we knew about it, but really didn't know many details about it, and this is at least the first look I'm really getting at it. I don't know if there was stuff I missed out there, but it's that typical story of Christopher Robin has grown up and he's kind of, lost his imagination. It's kind of a Peter Pan story of, don't grow up. And we see Christopher Robin having to deal with adult decisions, and he goes to a bench kind of like just to decompress a bit, and then who arrives but Winnie the Pooh? And oh my goodness. First of all, they got Jim Cummings doing the voice, who is, my generation's Pooh, which is awesome. Such a beautiful performance from Jim Cummings. And I love the design of Winnie the Pooh. I can't wait to see these plush toys on the store shelves because it's just such a beautiful design. And I can't wait for it. I'll put the trailer links in the show description. So if you want to check out either Christopher Robin or Mary Poppins Returns, check out those notes. In some more movie news, we got some new songs being added to Aladdin by Benj, Pasik, and Justin Paul, who I mentioned earlier actually won the Oscar last year for La La Land, and they are writing new music for Aladdin, so it's really interesting. They worked with Alan Menken on this. They wrote some new lyrics, and they also wrote lyrics for some brand new songs that Alan Menken wrote, but it's just interesting now to look at how many people have touched the music of Aladdin. When we get up through this live-action film, we'll have had Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, who originally worked on Aladdin as the animated film. After Howard Ashman passed away, they brought in Tim Rice to write some additional music and finish up the project. And then for Broadway, they brought in the Broadway book writer, whose name is Chad Begulin, I think, and he also wrote some lyrics for the Broadway musical of Aladdin. And now we've got Benj, Pasik, and Justin Paul writing some new stuff for the live-action film. So as far as the music of Aladdin is concerned, it's now been touched by Alan Menken, Howard Ashman, Tim Rice, Chad Begulin, Benj, Pasik, and Justin Paul. That is a pretty huge roster of people to have worked on music for one project. It's kind of incredible. Now, for you Marvel fans out there, you're probably very excited when you heard the news. Avengers Infinity War is coming out 1 week earlier than they initially said it would. It was moved from May 4th in North America to April 27th. Now, a lot of the releases were April 27th, around that time all over the world previously. I'm assuming they're just concerned about spoilers. I honestly have never understood why movies aren't released at the same time everywhere. I'm sure there's some really good research backing up the reasoning not to do this, but especially in this day and age where like spoilers are so relevant and so easy to access, even by mistake if you're not looking for them, I'm really surprised that we haven't found more movies just being released on the same date everywhere. So I'm happy about this change, April 27th, even though I probably won't go see it. I think it's a very good idea for this film, and they announced this in a very cool way. They did it in a Twitter exchange between Marvel Studios and Robert Downey Jr., where Robert Downey Jr. who of course plays Iron Man, he was basically saying, hey, I really want to share this with the world sooner. And Marvel's like, okay, how about April 27th type of thing. That's an abridged version there, but it was a really fun way that they decided to reveal that announcement. So Avengers Infinity War now coming out April 27th instead of May 4th. Now in some Star Wars movie news, recently in an interview, John Williams expressed that after Episode 9 of Star Wars, he'll most likely no longer score any more Star Wars films, which I get. It makes total sense to me. I'm not surprised by this. I kind of like this, being a person who likes a project to be completed. I think it's unbelievable that since the very first Star Wars in 1977 through what will be 2019 by the time Episode 9 comes out, that's 42 years. He will have composed the music for every single Star Wars saga movie. That is incredible. He's already passed the baton to Michael Giacchino for Rogue One and John Powell for the Solo movie. So it's not like at this point, since Star Wars movies are coming out so often, it's not like he's done them all anyway, but he has done all of the saga movies. And from where we stand now, it looks like, I believe Episode 9 will be the final saga movie. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a 10, 11, 12, and 20 or 30 years. But Unfortunately, John Williams will not be around then, and if he is, he won't be working, I'm sure. So I think it's incredible. Episode 9 will be his final one. I think it's the perfect way to say goodbye to that project, and I just would really love to pick his brain and see what it's like to have worked on a project, really one project for 42 years and changed the cinematic universe. It's pretty incredible to me. Some more Star Wars news is that Jon Favreau has now been announced as the executive producer and a writer for the live-action Star Wars series, which will be going on the Disney streaming service. Not a surprise here. I mean, Jon Favreau has done very well for the Walt Disney Company. Of course, he's also been involved in the Star Wars universe already. He's played roles in Clone Wars, the animated series, and even in the Solo movie coming out soon. He's directed Iron Man 1 and 2 for Marvel, Jungle Book, and of course the upcoming Lion King film. All of these projects have either really great hype or have done extraordinarily well. So welcome even more into the Star Wars universe, Jon Favreau. And of course, perhaps the most approachable person in the Star Wars universe is Mark Hamill, who recently got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame right in front of the El Capitan Theater. I'm telling you, they're going to run out of room in front of the El Capitan Theater because anybody that gets a star now from Disney, that's where they locate it, and it's a pretty cool area. It's a perfect place to get your star in front of the El Cap across the street from the Chinese Theater. It's awesome, but this was a little surprising to me only because I was surprised he didn't have one already. There are like literally thousands of those stars in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he's just somebody that I kind of expected to have one. So it's pretty cool. To help celebrate, on hand was Harrison Ford and George Lucas. It's really funny to see these three people together because Mark Hamill, if you've ever seen him in an interview or just even photos of him at a press event, he seems like one of the happiest people in the world. And then to his left, you have Harrison Ford, who looks like one of the grumpiest people in the world, no matter what he's doing. And then George Lucas, who you can never tell how he's feeling. He's just like one of the most flat people on earth whenever you see him. So it was just really kind of funny, the juxtaposition of Mark Hamill with Harrison Ford and George Lucas, but I'm glad that they all showed up to celebrate Mark receiving his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And now Disney Theatrical is keeping the tradition alive by releasing a new song from Frozen the Musical every single week. So this past week we got a song called Dangerous to Dream. This one's like an inner monologue for Elsa on her coronation day. And of course in the animated film, we all know when, she's being coronated and she has to touch the objects and she's worried about them freezing and revealing her powers and such. And so it's just kind of filling in a moment in the film that we already know about. To me, the song wasn't the most memorable, but it does the job. It was fine. Not as good as the first song, what was it called? Monster. Monster was a really, really great song for Elsa. This one's cool. I'll put a link down below if you want to take a listen to it in the show description. So check that out if you want. And now a kind of strange event took place at Disneyland recently. I did previously mention how they're doing a big celebration for Mickey's 90th birthday, and the way that they were going to launch this was through a fashion show at Disneyland. And it happened. It was the happiest show on earth. It was a runway fashion show that took place in Toontown with a lot of celebrities there and such. And they did a whole runway in Toontown and basically showed off the Mickey-inspired collection. This did close out Fashion Week celebrations from all over the world, and select fashions are now available at DisneyStore.com. And of course, speaking of fashion, I do want to mention that currently you can get your very own Disney Coast to Coast Newsies hat over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. It's no secret, one of my favorite things that Disney's ever done is Newsies. So of course, why not have a Newsies hat with the DCTC logo embroidered on it? I'm pretty excited about it. Go check those out at DisneyCoastToCoast.com and place your order today and help support the show. Now, coming up soon at the Disneyland Resort, we have Pixar Fest, and one of the highlights of Pixar Fest will be Together Forever, the new Pixar fireworks show. And we did find out that Buzz Lightyear will be flying over the castle. Of course, we're used to seeing Tinkerbell there in the past in shows like Magical. We had Tinkerbell and Dumbo flying over the castle. Well, this time, looks like Buzz Lightyear is going to be flying over the castle. And if we can believe some of the advertisements we've seen, we can maybe see the house from Up flying over the castle as well. It seemed like the ads were hinting at that. So we'll see on April 13th when this show premieres. I think it's super cool. I've actually always wanted them to do a flight-inspired fireworks show where like all of the flying characters were kind of, highlighted in this. So we would have had like Buzz Lightyear, Peter Pan, Mary Poppins, Tinkerbell, Dumbo. I think that would be a really, really cool fireworks show. My guess is it's probably difficult to get people in and out of the harnesses and stuff in order to do that many characters flying, but as of right now, it seems like 2 is their max. As I said, in Magical, it was Tinkerbell and Dumbo, and this summer, presumably, Buzz Lightyear and perhaps the house from Up. Now, over at Walt Disney World, we have a little bit of a rumor brewing over by the old River Country location, which is over by Fort Wilderness, and this area's been empty for a long time. When River Country shut down, it's kind of just been sitting there, and it's in ruin, and you can see there's plenty of videos on YouTube of showing the ruins of River Country. It's pretty cool. I actually went to Fort Wilderness just to like peek over the walls and see this, because I don't know what it is, but I love seeing overgrown areas that are just left to like kind of decay. It's fascinating to me. But in any case, a new permit was filed by Disney to check to see if the land there is suitable for a new construction project. There's no word on what this could be, but the guess is most likely a new resort hotel for the Magic Kingdom area. That seems to make sense to me. They're building a lot of new hotels these days. We've got the Star Wars Hotel headed to Disney's Hollywood Studios, a possibly rumored hotel being built near Epcot, and now this one, another one near Magic Kingdom. It seems there can never be enough hotel rooms at the Walt Disney World Resort. Now, this past week, we also saw the Walt Disney Company shareholder meeting, and I did listen to the whole thing. In all honesty, it was kind of uneventful. There weren't a ton of new announcements there, and the questions that were asked by shareholders were fairly boring. There was nothing exciting like in the past where, you know, the child asked about the changed name for Disney's Hollywood Studios. Nothing like that. There was a bit of a disgruntled person toward the end who was asking questions about things that were said on ESPN and The View, but other than that, it really was kind of uneventful. But I do want to mention this because one of the things that they did mention there is that Disney is donating $100 million to children's hospitals, and they mentioned how, you know, this is all to make the stay for children at a hospital less stressful for them. And of course, this is a wonderful thing. And they mentioned how they bring characters there, and even Black Panther showed up. And it got me thinking, I was like, well, this is a little strange because, yeah, the kids will know who Black Panther is, but these kids who are stuck in a hospital wouldn't have seen the movies. I was happy to read that they actually do bring first-run movies to these hospitals for the children to see there. So I think that's fantastic. But it goes way beyond just characters. They're bringing enchanted artwork like we've seen on the Disney Cruise Line, first-run movies, as I mentioned, and even some Disney Institute training for the doctors and nurses in the hospitals so that they can teach these doctors and nurses how to make it a less stressful stay for the children. I think this is fantastic. And as I thought about this and was reading this, to me, it really kind of captures the spirit of what Walt wanted Epcot to be. Now, obviously on a much smaller scale, but when Walt was around, his dream was to create the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. And the whole purpose of this wasn't a theme park. This was a city, a place where people would work to create new things and make new inventions that would make the world a better place. And, you know, this would kind of be the testing ground for it. And then what worked would hopefully grow and go beyond Epcot, the city. And I think that that's kind of like this on a very small scale. They're going through training with doctors and nurses, and they're talking to specialists about how to make it less stressful for children. And to me, this is like a mini version of Epcot trying to make the world a better place. And obviously, if it works here, it's going to go way beyond what Disney's doing. Their first test is going to be Texas Children's Hospital, and hopefully all that goes well. It will go way beyond that over the next 5 years with that $100 million that has been donated. But I don't know. I loved reading this, and it felt a little Walt to me. Of course, Disney's always investing in new technologies, and the next one they've been talking about is Studio Lab VR, and this is a new entertainment initiative that Disney's launching. Step one for this is going to be virtual reality and artificial intelligence, and they currently have a 3-year agreement with the company Accenture, I believe is how you say it, and they're building this from the ground up, so we'll see how it goes. To me, I feel like we've kind of seen this in the past. I've definitely had VR experiences that were used as a promotional tool for movies and entertainment, and it's kind of felt like a little bit of like novelty marketing, but it hasn't felt like a must to me. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this, if they can go past just novelty marketing and actually make it a really cool, like, part 2 of a movie-going experience. So we shall see. I'm sure a lot's going to come of it. I'm sure a lot of it will fail, but that's part of the process. And now for something that I think is really cool. Listen, I'm not going to lie. In the past, I have totally used Google Street View and Google Earth to try and see into the Disney parks. It's just one of those things you do when you're bored, right? Or at least I do. I go on Google Earth, I'll go to New York City and check out the theaters and stuff. And I've always tried to like go to Disneyland and get in the park, but of course it didn't exist until now. They now have 360-degree panoramas of Disneyland and Walt Disney World resorts on Google Street View. So you can use Google Street View now to basically walk through a Disney park. If you can't get there, this is so cool. I absolutely love this. I'm thrilled that this exists. And frankly, I'm going to be wasting a lot of time on Google Street View. Now, before we get going, I do want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters, Monet Pink, Philip Elke, Ana Leonardi, Diego Parada Herrera, Preston Ewing, and Rio Nakazawa. Thank you so much for being patrons of Disney Coast to Coast and, of course, enjoying those rewards that you get over there. If you want to become a patron and get some rewards, head over to patreon.com/DCTC or just visit DisneyCoastToCoast.com and click on the Patreon link there. Now, in this past Wednesday's episode of Disney Coast to Coast, I had Adam MacArthur with me from the show Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and we were talking about family matters at Walt Disney World. And the question I had for you, just like the character of Carl Winslow in Family Matters, when do you have your epiphany moment when you go on a Disney vacation? So thank you for heading over to YouTube and leaving comments. Skylar Von Skeltons says, I start feeling it before I even get to the park. I know it probably sounds weird to some people, but even when I'm walking towards the park on Harbor Boulevard, I already have that OMG, I'm here feeling. So that's pretty cool. I love that even being a local, it sounds like, to Disneyland Resort, even before you get there, you're still that excited. I got to admit, I don't get that feeling until much further into the day at this point, just having gone so many times. But that's awesome that you still get that, Skylar. I love that. And BRIFGR says, I think I feel that excitement you're talking about more for a Disney cruise. And the point that they were making was that they've done the park so many times, and Disney cruise is more of a novelty for them. So I get that as well. Something new and exciting for you. So heading onto that ship is definitely an epiphany moment for a lot of people. And of course, we had a Twitter poll this week as well. Make sure you're following DIZNEYCTC on Twitter to take part in the Twitter poll. This week I asked, my favorite is Honey I. Options are Shrunk the Kids, Blew Up the Kid, Shrunk Ourselves, or Shrunk the Audience. And last place, not too surprisingly, is Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, which got 3% of the votes. Right above that, at 7% of the votes, is Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. And then at 27% of the votes, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. Great attraction that was at Disneyland's Tomorrowland and Epcot. And, of course, my favorite is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids at 63% of the votes. No surprise there. I would agree with you pretty much wholeheartedly on that lineup. Although, I don't know. I'm not sure if Blew Up the Kid would go before Shrunk the Audience in my book. Yeah, I think Blew Up the Kid would be number 2 for me, and then Shrunk the Audience number 3. But I don't get a vote. You guys do. Thanks so much for joining for the latest Disney news. Of course, make sure you head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com. Check out that Newsies hat that's currently for sale for a limited time. There's also a new music playlist this month, music inspired by Disney's Hollywood Studios. I really enjoyed making that one. Make sure you go sign up for that at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. You can find all of our social media there. And of course, leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes and help other Disney folks find the show more easily. Have a magical day, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for watching Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.